Welcome into the Hook 'em Hoops podcast, brought to you by the Field of 68. Tommy Yarsh alongside Jason Conander. Texas going back to the round of 32 for the second straight year. They beat Colorado State 56-44. Jason, we have seen prettier basketball games, but at the end of the day, all that matters is that Texas got the dub.
That's all that matters, Tommy. And you know what? They got the win. It wasn't pretty. Texas gave up 11 points in the first half of this game, and that was what ended up giving them the win. They beat Colorado State by 12 points. It was never really that close in the second half. The Rams kind of, they never went away. It was within 7. That was the closest that the margin got in the second half. But you know what? My biggest takeaway from this game, the biggest defensive performance from the Texas Longhorns this season, and it came in the biggest game possible. They gave up 44 points. They held Isaiah Stevens, one of the best players in the country, to 10 points on 4 of 16 shooting. Patrick Cartier, who we highlighted on our show previewing this game, 4 points on 2 of 10 shooting. Tommy, Texas did everything defensively they had to do. The offense wasn't there. Smith and Dessou combined for single-digit points in the first half, and it didn't even matter. Texas wins handily, and now they move on to face Tennessee in a matchup against Rick Barnes on Saturday.
Yeah, that one, and this is not an SEC pun, but it does mean the same. It just means more for Texas. 1-1 against Rick Barnes in the last 2 meetings. So this team, though, for Tennessee just feels a little bit different because they've got Dalton Connect to be their guy offensively. Tennessee's always been that lockdown defensive team that is going to really make you work for scoring, but they haven't had that X factor on the offensive side. Now you've got Dalton Connect, and that just completely opens things up for Rick Barnes and company. And speaking of offense, Jason, if Texas wants to potentially hang with Tennessee and even win this game, they're going to need much better offense, especially from Dylan Dessou and Max Abmas. They went a combined, I'm going to try to do quick math here, 18 plus 15. I think that's what, 33, 10 of 33 from the field for 24 points. It got the job done against Colorado State. That's not going to get the job done against a team like Tennessee, I don't think, even if Texas has a defensive performance on par with what they had last night. I find it very difficult for Texas to win if they perform offensively like they did. 1 of 14 from 3. That's the 4th time, I think, ever that Texas has only made 1 3-pointer and won a game. And the last time that happened, Jason, was last year in round 1 against Penn State. Shout out to our guy Joe Cook with that fact I saw on Twitter. So, you expect a better 3-point shooting performance in the next game, but Jason, is it going to be enough to topple Tennessee?
I don't think so. I don't think
Me
so.
either.
They're going to have to hit more shots. Max Abmas missed a lot of shots that he usually makes in the first half. And so he's going to need to make those against Tennessee. I mean, I think that we're going to get an indication pretty early in that game if it's going to be close or not, based on if Max is hitting his shots and if Dylan Dessou is getting open shots. Now, Dylan Dessou just missed a ton of open looks today. He missed his first 5 shots from the field. His 6th one finally went in, but he missed some open looks in the first half. And, you just can't have that in the NCAA tournament. Luckily, Texas lives on to see another game. But if that happens against Tennessee, that game's going to become a blowout quick. As we saw tonight against St. Peter's, Tennessee was all over the Peacocks. And not to compare Texas to St. Peter's, but if Texas gets off to a similar start offensively where they're getting some open shots, but they're just not taking advantage of what's there for them, the game's going to end quickly. It's not going to be a competitive game in the second half. And for Texas, if they can make this a competitive game in the second half, if they can have a lead in the second half, this is a Tennessee team that does not perform well from behind. And so if Texas can get them behind early and take advantage of having that early lead, this might be one of the easier leads for Texas to hold because unlike Baylor, unlike Houston, unlike TCU, Tennessee does not perform well from behind. And so if you can get the Volunteers down 10, 15 in the first half and the early second half, the game could be over if Texas does what they did tonight.
The only problem is you have to find a way to get Tennessee down 10 to 15. And that's what I think is the mountain that's a little bit too tough to climb for this Texas team. Now, granted, can they do it? Do they have the ability to do it? Yes, they can. If they have a great offensive performance like they've had at some ports of the season, where they're knocking down all their shots. Max Asmus is hitting his shots. Dylan Nasu, who coming into tonight was one of the better three-point shooters, if not the best three-point shooter on this team. He goes 0 for 6 against Colorado State, but he had open looks. If he's knocking down those open looks, and he and Max Asmus combined for, 25, 30 points in the first half, then we could be talking about something here with against Tennessee. Do I think that'll happen though, which is the completely different part of it? I just don't think so. And we've talked a lot about Dalton Connect. I think Jonas Aidu is the biggest mismatch in this game for the Longhorns, because what Colorado State didn't have was size. Aidu 6'11", and he was just all over St. Peter's last night, Jason. That if he gets going like they were able to get him going in the first round, that's going to be really ugly down low.
Yeah, I would be worried about that for Texas. We talk about the padlock stat all the time when the Longhorns out rebound an opponent like they did against Colorado State tonight. They usually win the game, and that's going to be a much more difficult task against Tennessee on Saturday because Tennessee has the bigs to match Texas's strength down low. Dylan Mitchell's going to have another big game. He's going to need not only to score, but to also rebound at a pretty high mark. A double-double from him would be a welcome sight for Texas. Caden Shedrick is going to have to give the Longhorns good minutes off the bench, play controlled basketball within himself, not picking up silly fouls and having 3 fouls early into the game. That just can't happen on Saturday against Tennessee because Tennessee runs a deep rotation and Texas cannot match that depth. And so the Longhorns are going to need to make do with who they have. And so I would think it needs to be another big game from Kendall Weaver. And we need to see the defense from Tyrese Hunter again, because Tyrese is going to be guarding Dalton Connect. And that's going to be the most important matchup of the game. The most important assignment of Tyrese Hunter's career is coming on Saturday when he has to guard Dalton Connect, arguably the best player in the country on the wing. And so if Tyrese Hunter does a good job defensively and holds his own on offense, just pitches in 10 points, Texas is going to be competing in this game. And honestly, we're going to get to our score prediction block here in a second, but I think Texas can have a shot if one of two of those things happens. And if both of those things happen, the Longhorns are going to be in this game throughout.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 all through the NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you get up to $1,500 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we do have some fun stuff coming for the conference tournaments and especially for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and what I love the most, a nice parlay boost for anything you could possibly imagine betting on in the NCAA tournament, from odds and getting an at-large bid to Final Four futures to the highest seed to make to the Sweet 16. I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet for your March Madness needs. So go download the BetMGM app, use the code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request: the best way to support the Field of 68 and our content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod, like and share the YouTube videos, tell your friends about us. It helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Well, Jason, going back to an earlier point, Texas got out rebounded by Colorado State, 42-37. I think what made the difference there and why that wasn't a factor in this game was because Texas forced 19 turnovers. That more than makes up for a -5 rebounding differential, I think, at least. So, yes, if they get out rebounded by a wide margin, that typically doesn't bode well for them. But if they're forcing 19 turnovers, you take that any day of the week. A couple of last thoughts going into Tennessee for me. Staying out of foul trouble is going to be huge, because you can get by with Dylan Nasu and or Caden Shedrick off the floor when you're playing Colorado State. I don't think they'll be able to get away with that when they play Tennessee and they have that size with guys like I do. It's just not going to be able to happen because, you've got Dalton Connect on the floor too, who's a bigger guy. And that's just going to be a matchup nightmare if those guys get into foul trouble. And of course, you got to knock down your shots. This has to be a game where Texas knocks down their shots. And, a grinded out game against Tennessee is not going to end well in Texas's favor. It ended
They
well
will
against
lose.
Colorado State. They will lose,
They
and they
will
will lose bad, probably, if it's a grinded out kind of game. Kendall Weaver was huge off the bench. He had a fantastic game, probably one of his better games that I can remember. 11
His
points.
best.
I
His
think it's
best
not too
on both
far-fetched to
ends.
say. It's not too far-fetched to say his best. He continues to improve defensively, 11 points, 4 boards, and a steal. Great stuff from him. Ithiel Horton continues to really struggle. And I think it might be getting to the point where Kendall Weaver needs to go back into that starting position, maybe even Caden Shedrick. But the question is, does Rodney Terry want to make a drastic change like that at this point in the tournament? So that's the rest of my thoughts from the game before we get into our prediction block, Jason.
Let's go right into the prediction block. I don't think the folks need to hear too much more. It was a gritty win against Colorado State. It wasn't pretty, but you know what? In this tournament, you survive in advance. That's what Texas did. Rodney Terry showed that he's a pretty good tournament coach. There are some great coaches who are regarded higher than RT who can't get out of the first round. And now for the second straight year, RT has easily made it through the first round. And with a win against Tennessee, he will be into the second weekend for the second consecutive year. And so now we will go into our predictions block. Tommy, I know you're probably going to disagree with this one, but I feel like in March, you need to predict like the unexplainable. And when you look at the way that these teams match up, Tennessee, they go deep. Texas, not really. They have a thin bench. Tennessee is very good defensively. They play really good in transition. Probably not a great matchup for Texas. I'm going to take the Longhorns, though. I think that Texas is going to win this game. I think that they're going to figure it out. I think that Max Asmus is this is going to be his March encore. I can't say anything past this game, but I'm going to predict that in this round of 32, this is going to be his March Madness encore where he cements himself as like a true, true March Madness legend between the Oral Roberts run and then a big upset with Texas over Tennessee. And so I just have a feeling with this one, I think that Texas is going to do a good enough job defensively. They really looked awesome defensively. As bad as Colorado State shot it on Thursday night, it wasn't like Texas was just standing around watching them shoot those shots. They were playing great perimeter defense, pressuring the ball. They, for the first time all year, completely cut off the paint from an opponent. Completely. If that happens against Tennessee, Tommy, we might be doing another game preview next week. Hold on. I've got Texas 81-76.
Okay. You know what, Jason? I admire the confidence. And it's like I said earlier, it is a game that Texas very well can win. If they win this game, I'm not going to be surprised. I really won't.
I would be surprised. I'm predicting it, and I would be surprised.
Maybe I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be floored if Texas won this game, right? Like it wouldn't be like, okay, the bracket's burning down, everybody is absolutely mind boggled, right? Like it wouldn't be the most surprising of upsets, but I just think Tennessee just has one too many weapons, and the way that they play is just such a bad matchup, I think, for Texas. Yes, they have improved on the defensive end of the floor, and tonight showed that. They played fantastic defense the entire time. But can they do that against Tennessee, whose leading scorer is a bit bigger and who has been lights out from start to finish to start the year? Remember, Isaiah Stevens did not play well against Virginia, whereas Connect played really well in that first game against St. Peter. So he's still in his groove. I just can't see it, Jason. I really can't. If they were to win, it would be the biggest win of the Rodney Terry era, and everybody who doubted him would have to be absolutely silent. He's already got more wins than Chris Beard, Shaka Smart, and I think Rick Barnes combined in the tournament in their tenures at Texas, because he's 4-1 right now, which is pretty insane to think about. But I just don't see Texas winning this game. Say what?
That is insane.
It's crazy, isn't it? I think maybe Rick might. that stat might be cherry pick, but he definitely has more wins than Chris Beard and Shaka Smart combined. Um, I just don't see Texas winning this game. They're a good team. They're not a great team. I think Tennessee is a great team. So I think the Volunteers win this one. And I think they win it. I want to go 86-75.
Woo! Well, you
I
know
don't
what?
think that's too outlandish.
If it makes the people at home feel any better, last night Tommy's national championship pick fizzled out before anyone else's.
Listen,
Anyone else's.
that's not on me, man. That's Kentucky
That's
going
not Jack
in.
Goldie.
That is like no one was expecting that. Don't lie to yourselves. No
Yeah.
one was expecting that.
I didn't have that.
But man, Kentucky, they they don't have recruiting issues. They don't have talent issues. They've got on the floor issues, getting the job done issues. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because Cal's got a $33 million buyout. So,
but it goes down to 27 next year. And you know what? If Texas, like, let's say RT brings in a good recruiting class next year and they underachieve and they miss the tournament, and Cal underachieves again at Kentucky, they have another first round exit. Like, he will be gone, and Texas will easily pay him more than $27 million total. That's
would
all.
it be worth it?
I mean, it's not a matter of if it would be worth it. Like, Texas would definitely pay him that.
They absolutely would, but given what he would have done up to that
a conversation.
Point,
that's
for
a
later.
conversation.
That we don't even need to have that. Yeah, no, that's off-season conversation. Good call. So Texas against Tennessee on Saturday, right? Saturday.
Tomorrow.
Man, that should be a lot of fun. That should be a lot of fun. Longhorns playing against their former head coach. Jason, appreciate you making some time. Always great to chat with you as always. And thank you all for watching us here on the Hook 'em Hoops podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the Field of 68 Podcast Network YouTube channel, and hang around. We'll see you next time.
Hey, fingers crossed and hands right here that we get one more. I'm going to close the show on that. I said the same thing last show, and it happened. Let's just end the show right there. We're good. Y'all have a great rest of the first weekend of the tournament. Hopefully